Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. Inside the Star Tower, Luo Feng sat cross-legged, and a strand of primal chaos divine power instantly transformed into an exceedingly tiny black octodecahedron, which also bore the patterns of the primal chaos laws on its surface. Luo Feng felt that this black octodecahedron was like an extension of his own arms and legs, his consciousness able to permeate it. He could not help but reveal a look of joy. The 6 species of primal chaos layer creatures that I've collected, I have finally mastered the second type. Whoosh tilde tilde tilde. With a casual wave of his hand, Luo Feng sprinkled a large amount of divine power, which transformed into numerous black octodecahedrons, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1 billion, 180 trillion. The number transformed and evolved was exactly the same as the previous silver droplets creatures. When 180 trillion black octodecahedrons were completely combined, Luo Feng also felt a sense of perfection. These primal chaos layer creatures are quite similar, Luo Feng thought. Perhaps those naturally born with primal chaos realm strength are fundamentally different from them. It's a pity that those strongest primal chaos layer creatures were already captured long ago. Whoosh! After the fusion of the 180 trillion black octodecahedrons, they were like a dark, black mountain, stable and unshakable. Rise, thought Luo Feng, and immediately, 10 silver blade lights appeared, violently striking the black mountain. The black mountain, as though harboring an endless abyss within, naturally absorbed the limitless impact force, without moving an inch. Not even the 10 silver blade lights could shake it. Just as I anticipated, its defense is very strong. Luo Feng conducted test after test. After a long time, Luo Feng was quite satisfied. The previous silver droplet transformation method, setting the benchmark, serves as the base. This black octodecahedron transformation method, although unsuitable for executing blade techniques, with only 30% of the power and 20% of the movement speed of the silver droplet transformation method, its defensive strength reaches 9 times higher, also having the ability to absorb enemy forces for a counterstrike. Defense, along with the ability to absorb and counterstrike. The first transformation method I've comprehended, the silver droplet transformation method, is thus named the galaxy transformation method, Luo Feng thought, since 180 trillion droplets of silver indeed formed a silver river. The second transformation method shall be named the Black Abyss transformation method, Luo Feng mused. Each black octodecahedron containing space within, capable of absorbing and counterattacking with force. This also made them remarkably sturdy. Silver droplet creatures were already very resilient, but the toughness of the black octodecahedron was 9 times that. They are all scalable, and in Black Abyss form, they can form a protective robe, Luo Feng thought. The black mountain in the air quickly covered Luo Feng's body, transforming into a set of black robes. I can transform all into Black Abyss form using 10% of the divine power from my perfect divine body. Who then can harm me? With the Black Abyss robe on the surface, with the Star Tower maintaining primal chaotic space within, and surrounded by an endless silver galaxy. First, I'll study these 6 transformation methods. Afterward, I can go to the primal chaos layer, and collect more primal chaos layer creatures. Luo Feng was quite interested in these creatures after all, they were naturally born, each basic unit of strength containing life spirituality. To create out of nothing was exceedingly difficult. Yet, merely transforming, Luo Feng still managed to achieve it. He believed that as he studied more primal chaos layer creatures, the transformation methods would certainly improve. With dozens or even hundreds of transformation methods, accumulated experience may sooner or later allow creation of the most suited godly body for himself. Inside the city owner's mansion, at Luo Feng's separate courtyard. Master, you're out of seclusion? Morosa's telepathy detected Luo Feng's emergence immediately. One has to rest sometime, Luo Feng said with a smile. Achieving a transformation method was indeed no small feat, especially since each transformation involved creatures from the primal chaos layer with different internal structures and different life spiritualities. Go arrange some food for me, Luo Feng commanded, and then he picked up a jug of wine himself, which he carried with him. However, The food would need to be freshly prepared. I'll arrange it right away. While Morosa was affirmatively responding, he couldn't help but add, Master, there is something I must tell you first. Go on, Luo Feng said leisurely while drinking. Completing a transformation method felt truly fulfilling, and naturally, his mood was excellent. Moyu Qingyang, that lad, has already mastered the 10 fundamental laws and has become a true god of void space, Morosa spoke. Has he finally figured it out? Luo Feng laughed. With you, a great master personally guiding him, it took him so long to break through. It seems Moyu Qingyang's comprehension isn't considered very high. Morosa shook his head. It's not just not very high, his comprehension is poor. Compared to Master, far too inferior. Morosa, after all, had been with Luo Feng for a long time and had witnessed Luo Feng's rapid growth. Luo Feng's progress put even him, a sector beast, under pressure. Compared to that, Moyu Qingyang naturally appeared utterly mediocre. He's already done quite well, Luo Feng chuckled. Master, are you planning to take him as a disciple? Morosa asked. According to what was said initially, mastering the 10 fundamental laws was just the first test. Luo Feng looked at Morosa with interest. Don't hold back, I know, you want to help Moyu Qingyang. Morosa laughed. Heh. Actually, his long-term following us, and being with us day and night, is another test. A test of his true nature, Luo Feng explained. Over 3 decades of constant companionship is enough to understand his true nature. This Moyu Qingyang knows restraint, acts meticulously, and has also not used my name to recklessly gain benefits outside. With Luo Feng's fame in Huyang City, as one of his only 2 servants, Moyu Qingyang could have gained many benefits had he been greedy. When they were 3 brothers before me, I saw that this lad was the more down-to-earth one, Luo Feng reminisced. Back then, he had stated that he wouldn't provide any guidance, and without any guidance. In the land of origin, many true gods could spend their entire lives without comprehending the 10 fundamental laws. In such circumstances, Moyu Qingyang was still willing to follow. Even though he knew there were numerous dangers, Moyu Qingyang did not waver. His elder brother and 3rd brother had both given up. At that time, Luo Feng had felt that Moyu Qingyang had a good nature, being the most steadfast of them all. So, Master, what do you mean? Morosa asked. Having spent over 3 decades together, he has also passed the test. Luo Feng looked at Morosa, but I sense that he should be closer to you at heart. How about, you let him take you as his master? Take me as his master? Morosa was startled. Your current status is that of a powerful eternal true god. Once I am strong enough in the future, you can naturally make a breakthrough to the primal chaos realm, Luo Feng said. To be his master is indeed sufficient. Morosa was indeed somewhat tempted. After all, after such a long time together and over 3 decades of careful teaching, he naturally developed feelings. Forget it. Morosa shook his head, and telepathically communicated to Luo Feng. In the early stages I need to be very careful, not to reveal any sharpness. Even if I grow to the pinnacle in the future, having a sector beast as a disciple is not exactly a prestigious status. But Master, you are different. You will be a guest elder in the Flame-Wind ancient country. Your future status will be more noble, and your strength greater. Plus, your identity is reputable. Being your disciple will bring him far greater benefits. Luo Feng was a normal cultivator, and even though some of the top inheritances in Flame-Wind ancient country had high thresholds with various checkups and screenings, there was nothing to worry about. But it was different for Morosa. The detailed checkups and screenings, even those that could delve deep into the body, would find that Morosa's body contained a realm within it. Therefore, he was destined to keep a low profile. You really are considering everything for his sake. Luo Feng looked at Morosa. I'm tired of mentoring. I've taught him for over 3 decades, it's been enough, Morosa couldn't help saying. Luo Feng looked on, feeling rather emotional. As a sector beast representing cataclysm, Morosa, after being enslaved at the soul level and fully suppressing his ferocity, interacted with other creatures, formed bonds, and experienced grievances. All creatures have a glimmer of life. Sector beasts, beings born with the power to control the destruction of the origin, are also controlled by that same origin, only knowing slaughter and destruction, ultimately leading themselves to destruction. Luo Feng thought, perhaps being enslaved, seemingly losing freedom, actually suppresses their violence, giving them this glimmer of life. Sector beasts, born that way, seemed to have their destinies already set. However, being enslaved could possibly allow them to escape that destiny. "All right, since you won't take him, then I will take him as my disciple," Luo Feng said. "Thank you, Master," Morosa exclaimed joyfully. Soon, Luo Feng publicly took a disciple, which was also the first disciple he took in the land of origin. Moryu Hu's family, General Yuewu, General Yong Hu, and many high-status eternal true gods from Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture, all attended the ceremony. Gao Wu Shui, Moli Feiyun, and Zhurong Qi also stood in a corner watching. Lord Luo he actually took Qingyang as a disciple, Moryu Hu was very excited. Initially, he had exchanged his most valuable treasure and a favor from Luo Feng for the chance for his son to become a disciple. Who would have thought that after a test lasting more than 3 decades, Lord Luo he would take a disciple? Lord Luo he is likely to reach the primal chaos realm. His own son Qingyang truly has ascended to the heavens in one step. He actually became a disciple so quickly. Moryu Lifeng, the eldest of the Moryu family, felt happy for his brother, yet had mixed emotions. After all, such a great opportunity had been in front of him too, but he chose to give it up. Now his brother had successfully become a disciple. A young fellow, fortunate enough to take Lord Luo he as a master, the Dream Flower Tower master observed from aside, also very envious. Lord Luo he doesn't lightly take anyone under his wing. Up to now, there had been only one servant, Lord Luo Sa, and his newly accepted sole disciple, Moryu Qingyang. Disciple Moryu Qingyang, paying respects to master. Moryu Qingyang formally knelt down in utmost respect. This scene was witnessed by everyone present. In the land of origin, becoming a disciple was an extremely solemn affair. The relationship between master and disciple could even surpass kinship ties. Once becoming a disciple, one was devoted to the master for life. If one betrayed the master, it would be scorned by all parties. After all, the grace of imparting teaching, guidance, cultivation resources, providing weapon secret treasures, and guiding the path of cultivation. A master's kindness towards a disciple was immense. To betray such immense kindness, what cultivator could be trusted? Who would dare employ him? "Rise," Luo Feng said with a smile, looking at Moryu Qingyang. Moryu Qingyang stood up, feeling tremendously excited at the moment, as if he were in a dream. "Congratulations, Brother Luo he," General Yuewu and General Yong Hu both offered their congratulations from the side. "This young one is still very naive, he needs to cultivate diligently," Luo Feng said with a smile. Moryu Qingyang stood to the side, glancing at Morosa nearby. In his heart, Moryu Qingyang even harbored the idea of taking Morosa as his master. Given the countless careful teachings over the years, he was very grateful. However, he kept this thought deep in his heart. The act of Lord Luo he taking a disciple was just a minor episode in the wars between the two great primal chaos prefectures. Time silently passed, and an era had elapsed. The Marquis of Zhujiang was also trying to find ways to visit various powerful beings, all who did not fear Marquis Liu Yin. However, he had not been able to secure any powerful allies. The land of origin housed a vast and frigid icefield known as the Tianji Icefield. Its expanse was so vast, it could rival the territory of the Flame-Wind ancient country. However, due to the harsh environment of this icefield, the number of cultivators was less than 1% of those in the Flame-Wind ancient country. In the Tianji Icefield, there were no kingdoms, only scattered powers. Huff! The Marquis of Zhujiang, in his transformed form, looked at the great icy city of Juefeng City before him. Juefeng City was also a large city, built entirely from ice, its population several times more than that of Huyang City. In the Tianji Icefield, only the city housed a numerous amount of cultivators. Outside, you could hardly see any tribes. The harsh conditions made survival difficult for tribes. At last, Great Saint Juefeng has come out of seclusion. The Marquis of Zhujiang had also received the message and was visiting Great Saint Juefeng once again. Within the imposing city, at the center was a massive cave mansion, belonging to the city's master, Great Saint Juefeng. "Marquis Zhujiang, please." An eternal true God attendant personally led the way at the main gate of the mansion. Soon, they arrived at a grand hall. Come, brother Zhujiang, take a seat. A towering figure with dark green skin sat there, grinning and said, I've been in closed-door cultivation all this time, making brother Zhujiang wait for so long. Brother Zhuefeng's cultivation is the most critical matter, the Marquis of Zhujiang said with a flattering smile. He was seeking aid from beings no less than Marquis Liu Yin. This great Saint Zhuefeng, carefree and unrestrained, was also unwilling to join any kingdom. He occupied a major city on his own, ruling over millions of cultivators, content in his cultivation, yet none dared to provoke him. In terms of strength, great Saint Zhuefeng was not inferior to Marquis Liu Yin, both being pinnacle existences in the primal chaos realm. In terms of background, great Saint Zhuefeng had once been an honorary disciple under an emperor of the Flame-Wind ancient country, but given the intense competition that drew too many elites to the Flame-Wind ancient country, great Saint Zhuefeng ultimately chose to leave and become a carefree chaos great saint in the Tianji icefield. Haha, Zhujiang is always so pleasant to listen to, great Saint Zhuefeng laughed, showing his teeth. Say, what brings you to me? The Marquis of Zhujiang put down his wine cup and then said, Brother Zhuefeng, my neighbor, Marquis Liu Yin, is presently scheming against my fiefdom. I've heard about your situation, great Saint Zhuefeng nodded. Marquis Liu Yin is fierce and overbearing. It would be strange if he didn't bully you. The Marquis of Zhujiang's expression stiffened as he nodded. Indeed, I'm not confident I can withstand him, which is why I'm here to ask for assistance. If Brother Zhuefeng is willing to help, just name your price. Great Saint Zhuefeng, holding a huge blue-golden wine cup, drank the wine first before saying, Within your Yu Kingdom's borders, there are no primal chaos realm beings willing to help you, right? The Marquis of Zhujiang nodded, that's right. In our Yu Kingdom, there are only a few capable of contending with Marquis Liu Yin. Even our nation's ruler finds it difficult to mobilize them. How could I possibly persuade them? Of course, you can't persuade them. Great Saint Zhuefeng put down his cup. After enduring countless hardships to reach the primal chaos realm, who would want to risk their life for you? If you brought out treasures like godly king weapons as an invitation, you might be able to call for strong support. But do you have such treasures? I do not, the Marquis of Zhujiang admitted. Saying just ask while being unable to produce any actual treasures, who would want to risk their life against Marquis Liu Yin for you? Great Saint Zhuefeng shook his head. Who is Marquis Liu Yin? He's inherently fierce, retaliatory, and at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, he might break through at any moment and step into the godly king level. Contend against such an existence? With empty promises? Great Saint Zhuefeng scoffed, Zhujiang, you truly have mishandled this situation. Brother Zhuefeng, I know I can't offer many treasures, the Marquis of Zhujiang said helplessly, but this involves my fief, and I'm out of options. Your fiefdom has 3 large cities and 189 ordinary cities, Great Saint Zhuefeng said teasingly. If I help you protect your fiefdom, from then on, the residence fee of 2 large cities and 100 ordinary cities will perpetually go to me. Could you accept that? The Marquis of Zhujiang looked somewhat embarrassed. I only have Zhujiang City and a few ordinary cities left. A top-tier cultivator in the primal chaos realm could easily occupy a large city even without ambition. Was it worth it to compete with Marquis Liu Yin at all costs, only to be left with so little in the end? You see, you're reluctant to part with it. Great Saint Zhuefeng shook his head. The struggle for fiefdoms isn't a short-term conflict, it's a prolonged battle. It's about thoroughly offending Marquis Liu Yin to death. Without enough benefit, no one is willing to help you. Come on, let's stop talking about this and just drink. Marquis of Zhujiang could only drink his sorrow away. It had been one era. He had thought, with quite a few friends, maybe he could invite a powerful helper. But when it came to a life-and-death struggle with Marquis Liu Yin, he couldn't invite even one. Outside Huyang City. Whoosh! Blood-red flames coalesced, forming one of the avatars of Marquis Liu Yin. After the last battle in Huyang City, Marquis of Zhujiang must have realized that he can't win against the army of the eternal level. Marquis Liu Yin gazed at Huyang City from afar, so he has been going everywhere inviting friends to aid him. Marquis Liu Yin, too, had heard that the Marquis of Zhujiang had been requesting help from powerful figures in some places. One era, and Marquis of Zhujiang should have come to terms with reality. My guess is that he couldn't invite anyone, Marquis Liu Yin said confidently, a confidence built over many long years. He always acted in a brutal and overbearing manner. Even existences of the same level would need to carefully consider the costs of getting involved. Even if helpers are invited, a victory must still be determined, thought Marquis Liu Yin. His reason for waiting patiently was that, even if an army of the Eternal Level 1 and temporarily occupied 3 large cities, once Marquis of Zhujiang called in strong reinforcements, he would still have to descend into battle. It was better to wait patiently and see how the situation unfolded. Maybe Marquis of Zhujiang, realizing his own lack of strength, would completely lose heart, not daring to join the fight and simply give up his fiefdom. Yang, Marquis Liu Yin transmitted his command. Father, Liu Yinyang, who was in the Heart Shadow sect's residence within Huyang City, responded to his father's message. You can contact your senior brothers and sisters now, and also have the 2 envoys from the Snow Realm come over, transmitted Marquis Liu Yin. Once your senior brothers and sisters arrive and preparations are complete, we can go to war. I guess, this time, Marquis of Zhujiang will probably concede voluntarily. Yes, father, Liu Yinyang was overjoyed. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Within Huyang City. Cloaked in a blood robe, the young man Liu Yinyang received orders from his father and was overjoyed. He immediately contacted his senior brothers and sisters. The battle between Liu Yin Primal Chaos State and Zhujiang Primal Chaos State has reached its final moments. My father predicts that Marquis of Zhujiang, knowing he's not a match, will likely opt to concede. Liu Yinyang transmitted, I ask for senior brothers and sisters' support to jointly attack Marquis of Zhujiang's military formation. Master has already commanded, and we certainly shall assist. Junior brother, rest assured, we will come as fast as possible. Once the ancestral god of the Snow Realm nodded, the other 2 envoys of the Snow Realm were already prepared. As soon as Marquis Liu Yin summoned them, they naturally rushed to assist with the greatest speed. After the communication was cut off, Liu Yinyang was quite excited. Young Master Yang, since the Marquis has said that Marquis of Zhujiang will voluntarily step back, it seems this battle will go very smoothly. The General Black Armor by his side also anticipated eagerly. What does Marquis of Zhujiang have to contend with my father? Liu Yinyang smiled, my senior brother and senior sister will soon be here. I need to prepare some food for them. Prepare food. General Black Armor's eyes lit up. He had followed the young master in his cultivation in the Snow Realm and was very aware of what the so-called food was. Don't worry, you'll get your share too. Liu Yinyang glanced at his subordinate. Thank you, young Master Yang. General Black Armor was delighted. Liu Yinyang casually traced his hand, and a model of the Huyang City appeared before him. He looked at it and pointed to a certain area. Huyang City is teeming with cultivators. Here is the Fengyi district of Huyang City, home to roughly 100 billion cultivators. Offering them as food to my senior brother and senior sister should be presentable enough. Let's go. Liu Yinyang led his forces, together with the envoys of the Snow Realm, quietly departing the Heart Realm's residence. A single envoy of the Snow Realm could not defeat the army formation of Marquis of Zhujiang. But to merely protect itself, it was completely at ease. Even Luo Feng, who had shown his strength on the surface, could do nothing against the envoy of the Snow Realm. Whoosh! This envoy of the Snow Realm left the Heart Realm and headed straight for the Fengyi district of Huyang City. That young Master Yang left the residence. On the side of the Heart Shadow sect, the Master of the Heart Shadow sect and the 18 elders quickly received the news. We just need to watch the city owner's mansion. The envoy of the Snow Realm comes and goes as he pleases, no one can threaten him, the Master of the Heart Shadow sect instructed, and the other elders understood as well. They were not qualified to intervene with the affairs of that envoy of the Snow Realm. Whoosh! The envoy of the Snow Realm took only a few steps to traverse the void and arrived above the Fengyi district. At this moment, nearly all the cultivators in Fengyi district were hiding in their dwellings, not daring to go out and cause trouble. The entire Huyang city was gripped by fear and anxiety. The formation of the city owner's mansion enveloped the entire city, and the wave-like pulsations of the formations from the Heart Shadow sect also spread out. This terrified ordinary cultivators. I wonder how long this battle will last. No matter who takes command of Huyang City, we have to obediently pay the residence fee, so let's just survive through this storm. The entire Fengyi district, indeed housing about 100 billion cultivators, were all enduring patiently. At the moment, to leave the city meant potentially losing life to the colliding formation energies of the two major forces. While the residential area was still protected by the formation, it was at least a barrier against some of the residual energy. 100 billion blood food, the envoy of the snow realm, whose body was white as snow and holy beyond compare, looked down below, stretching out his arm which rapidly grew to an immense size. The snow-white palm, covering the entire sky above the Fengyi district, reached for it. Achem! This significant commotion naturally drew attention from all sides. Whether it was General Yuewu, who controlled the Grand Formation, Emperor Chu Yu of the Flame Wind Pavilion who observed the whole city, or Luo Feng and Morosa, who were at the level of primal chaos overlords, they all saw this scene. What is he doing? Morosa was shocked. The envoy of the Snow Realm? Luo Feng looked at the scene. The ancestral god of the Snow Realm had originally achieved godly king status through the bloodline of blood within the Great Tao of Life. Blood is indeed very mysterious. It contains endless information, and having a powerful lineage can greatly accelerate cultivation. Morosa, by absorbing information from some powerful lineages, could promote his own evolution. And the ancestral god of the Snow Realm had already thoroughly mastered the path of the bloodline of blood, even starting to cultivate other branches of the Great Tao of Life. To cultivate the secret techniques of the bloodline of blood, the cultivators of the Snow Realm were most keen on capturing blood food, an important resource for their cultivation. To capture all creatures in the entire Fengyi district. Again, to capture blood food? Luo Feng, who also contemplated the Great Tao of Life, was very clear that actually, collecting some blood could equally facilitate cultivation of the bloodline of blood. To capture directly and keep for long-term blood harvesting was purely for convenience. Those blood foods, kept for long-term blood harvesting, lived in abject misery, suffering far more than simply meeting death. He came here to seize blood food. Luo Feng shook his head lightly. He had already disappeared into thin air, making Morosa beside him surprised, then itching with anticipation. Master wishes to act, so he acts. When can I indulge so freely? Rumble tilde tilde tilde. The envoy of the Snow Realm, with the snow-white palm obscuring the sky of the Fengyi district, filled the 100 billion beings of the Fengyi district with terror. The residential area's formation was easily torn apart by the snow-white palm. No. It's over. Why go after us? We are just true gods. The 100 billion creatures had no power to resist and watched the scene in despair. Suddenly, plop! A palm came from the void, piercing the snow-white chest of the envoy of the Snow Realm. After practicing the transformation method, Luo Feng's godly body became like the most terrifying weapon. His fingers, sharp and containing boundless might, easily penetrated the chest of the envoy of the Snow Realm. Hey! Luo Feng, who stepped out from the void, was quite surprised. Is the envoy of the Snow Realm so fragile? Mechanical treasures like Heart Devil Kite, Demon General of Heart Shadow, and Envoy of the Snow Realm were reputed in the outside world to be on par with Primal Chaos Realm weapon secret treasures, renowned for their toughness. But in this moment, as Luo Feng's palm pierced through, he confirmed the true defensive capabilities of the Envoy of the Snow Realm. The material of this Envoy of the Snow Realm is at the bottom among the weapon secret treasures of the Primal Chaos Realm. Plus, because it is a mechanical treasure made of mechanical parts, its stability is even worse, Luo Feng assessed as he pierced through, fully ascertaining the strengths and weaknesses of the Envoy of the Snow Realm. An eternal true god definitely couldn't break this Envoy of the Snow Realm, but any slightly formidable being from the Primal Chaos Realm could damage it. Slightly inferior materials, slightly worse stability. But it is very complexly made, allowing a group of the weak to burst forth with great strength. A single Envoy of the Snow Realm is worth as much as an ordinary Primal Chaos Realm weapon secret treasure, roughly around 200 million cosmic sand, Luo Feng said, accurate in his valuation with detailed intelligence from his master, mountain-sitting guest. After all, his master used to sell these. Buzz. As Luo Feng's fingers pierced into the chest of the envoy of the Snow Realm, he immediately sensed all the manipulators within the envoy. A leader, 36 assisting eternal true gods, and 49,000 true gods of void space were all in a state of endless fear at this moment. Reeking of blood. Luo Feng could feel the blood-stained scent deeply ingrained in the souls of the leader Liu Yinyang and the 36 eternal true gods. They were disciples directly under the ancestral god of the Snow Realm and practiced the bloodline of blood dharma. The 49,000 true gods of void space, however, didn't have much of a blood scent. They were not yet qualified to learn the emperor-level inheritance. After all, cultivation requires the consumption of a vast amount of blood food, and the consumption of blood food by beings from the primal chaos realm and numerous eternal true gods was already enormous, not enough to go around. Thus, true gods of void space were naturally forbidden to use blood food. In desperation, some of the lower ranks who erred could also end up as blood food. To be born in the Snow Realm, indeed, it's a lament for you all. Luo Feng had no killing intent towards those 49,000 true gods of void space. He was well aware of the pitiable state of the middle and lower tiers within the Snow Realm. Born in that territory, even thinking of escape was futile. Buzz. Luo Feng's thoughts were lightning fast. As his hand pierced the chest of the envoy of the Snow Realm, he seized the leader Liu Yinyang in his palm, while an invisible fluctuation swept across the 36 assisting eternal true gods, causing each of them to perish. At the same time, he expelled all 49,000 true gods of void space, each tumbling away into the distance. Piercing the chest, damaging a section of the chest components, a fix and it'll still be usable. It might fetch a decent price. Luo Feng collected the figure of the envoy of the Snow Realm. After all, being poor, the envoy valued at roughly 2 billion was still worth cherishing. Luo Feng then looked at the young man in the blood-red robe Liu Yinyang held within his palm. As Liu Yinyang was grasped within the palm, he looked up to see the familiar figure in a black robe. Luo Feng at this moment looked indifferently at the blood-robed youth as if he were looking at filthy trash. Luo he? Liu Yinyang couldn't believe it. You've broken through to the primal chaos realm? Piercing the envoy of the Snow Realm with one hand, that was certainly not something an eternal true god could achieve. Luo Feng stood above the Fengyi district, clutching Liu Yinyang in his hand, a scene that naturally everyone witnessed. Lord Luo he's reached the primal chaos realm? On the side of the city owner's mansion, General Yuewu, General Yonghu, and various other eternal true gods were all shocked. Too many eternal true gods longed to take that step. Even General Yuewu, who was publicly recognized as a future primal chaos realm being, still had an unknown time of arrival. Now, they who thought they knew Lord Luo he well, saw him truly become a primal chaos realm being. He turned out to be a primal chaos realm being, the Dream Flower Tower Master muttered to himself in a whisper. Was he always a primal chaos realm being, or is he a newly advanced one? Lord of Huyang City also pondered in secret. My master, he is a primal chaos realm being? Moyu Qingyang was somewhat stunned, and Morosa chuckled as he looked at Moyu Qingyang. Billions of creatures of the Fengyi district were the most excited, watching the scene above where Luo Feng held Liu Yinyang in one hand with both gratitude and excitement. We've survived. My father, mother, wife, and all my children have survived. My fellow disciples, my clan, they all survived. The Fengyi district was home to a myriad of different clans and even some small sects and forces, all of whom had now survived. That is Lord Luo he. Billions of creatures, the vast majority of whom did not recognize Luo Feng. Yet some true gods of void space, with some knowledge of the information, recognized at a glance that the figure high above was indeed Luo Feng. It was Lord Luo he who saved my entire clan. Many cultivators felt tremendous gratitude. Young Master Yang has been captured, the 36 eternal true gods are all dead, am I free now? The 49,000 true gods of void space, scattered in all directions, each had different thoughts at this moment. Being born in the realm of the Snow Realm, they were deprived of the right to choose from the very beginning, compelled to serve the massive power of the Snow Realm. Even some who failed would become sources of blood food. Leaving here, I will never return to the Snow Realm, a true god of void space left silently. The envoy of the Snow Realm has been taken away. How will we return to the Snow Realm? There were also some true gods of void space devoutly loyal to the Snow Realm, still thinking of returning. But Yu Kingdom was too far from the Snow Realm. They could only hope the Snow Realm would come to fetch them, or that Marquis Liu Yin would find a way to send them back. Us weak ones, the Snow Realm probably doesn't care about us, right? Have I struggled in vain for so long? Can't I go back? Only a few of my kin still live. This vengeance, I will most definitely seek. The 49,000 true gods of void space had varying thoughts. As one of the Land of Origin's top 10 sinners, the ancestral god of the Snow Realm ruled his territory with extreme cruelty. Countless beings harbored resentment against him. But the ancestral god of the Snow Realm didn't care. His disciples, once they reached the eternal true god level, would be granted a drop of his blood to inherit the bloodline of blood. Upon absorbing this drop of blood, they would naturally become loyal, never to betray. Thus, in the Snow Realm, while there may be much grievance and resentment at the lower levels, the middle and upper echelons were absolutely loyal. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Luo Feng's seemingly casual act changed the fate of the 49,000 true gods of void space, changing the destiny of billions of creatures in the Fengyi district. I didn't expect that Luo he had already reached the primal chaos realm. From the side of the Flame Wind Pavilion, Emperor Chu Yu and the Deputy Pavilion Master, watching this scene, were in high spirits. Now I can take Luo he back to the Flame Wind ancient country with me, thought Emperor Chu Yu. Emperor Chu Yu then transmitted his voice from afar, Luo he, now that we have both stepped into the primal chaos realm, once the matters here are settled, we can return to the Flame Wind ancient country. Remember, don't kill Liu Yinyang at all cost. Publicly killing Liu Yinyang while the two armies are in stalemate. Marquis Liu Yin, for the sake of face, will surely make a move against you. Luo Feng heard Emperor Chu Yu's transmission and looked at Liu Yinyang in the palm of his hand. Knowing Marquis Liu Yin's nature, with many sons and daughters, the death of one Liu Yinyang would not be too unbearable. But in a standoff between two armies, with someone from the primal chaos realm taking action, a matter of face, Marquis Liu Yin could not tolerate it. Lord Luo he, my father is Marquis Liu Yin, my master is the ancestral god of the Snow Realm. Please forgive my previous disrespect and spare my life. Liu Yinyang pleaded for mercy. He guessed that a newly advanced primal chaos realm cultivator wouldn't dare to kill him publicly. But he didn't dare to bet. Having spent so much time in the Snow Realm, he was accustomed to the madness there. Cultivators of the Snow Realm acted unbridled, killing without a second thought. Background. It's only useful if you value it. Brother Luo he, you are not yet a guest elder of my Flame Wind ancient country. Even if you were, my Flame Wind ancient country does not intervene in conflicts between guest elders. After all, many emperor-level beings at the border kingdoms are guest elders of my Flame Wind ancient country. They often fight among themselves, and we do not intervene. Emperor Chu Yu perceived something wrong and immediately transmitted, even the disciples of emperors perish in these external conflict. As long as it's a fight on the same level, the Flame Wind ancient country does not interfere. Once you kill Liu Yinyang, and Marquis Liu Yin flies into a rage. Being from the imperial clan of the Flame Wind ancient country, he wouldn't dare touch me, but I can't stop him either. Emperor Chu Yu transmitted his advice. He valued Luo Feng highly for his loyalty and sense of righteousness, as well as his hate for evil. But it was precisely because of this hate for evil that Emperor Chu Yu worried that Luo Feng might act impulsively and kill Liu Yinyang. He has instantly killed 36 eternal true gods, yet he merely captured Liu Yinyang alive. The Deputy Pavilion Master remarked, this Luo he's most likely not a rash person. I advised him, yet he didn't agree to spare Liu Yinyang. I always feel that something is wrong, said Emperor Chu Yu. For a minor eternal true god, it's not worth putting oneself in jeopardy. As Emperor Chu Yu advised, the avatar of Marquis of Zhujiang was also attempting to persuade through transmission, younger brother Luo he, congratulations on breaking through to the primal chaos realm. But the gap between beings of the primal chaos realm is vast. This era, I invited friends from various sides, but still, no help came. You, a newly ascended primal chaos realm being, needn't involve yourself. I will confront Marquis Liu Yin and settle this with a victory or defeat. If I lose, I'll also give up my territory. You're giving up, Marquis of Zhujiang, transmitted Luo Feng. 8 or 9 out of 10, I won't be able to hold on to this territory, the avatar of Marquis of Zhujiang transmitted back. You, as a new primal chaos realm cultivator, need time to grow steadily. Not to meddle in this now. Luo Feng understood. Luo Feng then looked towards the distant sky. In the sky, a strand of blood-red flame condensed, forming a dark red armored figure. This dark red armored figure looked towards Luo Feng. Release my child, hand over the envoy of the Snow Realm, and offer up another 10 billion cosmic sand to the Snow Realm as compensation. The dark red armored figure spoke indifferently. Then I will spare you, giving you, a newly ascended primal chaos realm being, a chance to live. Otherwise, if I deal with you, it would not be considered bullying the weak. The dark red armored figure kept his gaze on Luo Feng. Are you that confident? Luo Feng looked at him. Those who seek death, feel free to make your move, the dark red armored figure said coldly, watching the scene. Luo Feng nodded slightly, exerting force with his finger. Thud. No, young Master Yang was filled with horror but was still crushed to pieces, turning to ash. This scene stunned Marquis of Zhujiang and Emperor Chu Yu. Even the distant dark red armored figure's expression changed subtly. Come then, I want to see how exactly I'm seeking my own death. Luo Feng looked at the dark red armored figure. This is serious trouble. At the Flame Wind Pavilion, both Emperor Chu Yu and the Deputy Pavilion Master were trembling in their hearts. In the entire world, only the godly kings and those in the primal chaos realm were considered high-level beings, and every existence at the pinnacle of primal chaos was not to be trifled with. Even the imperial clansmen of the Flame Wind ancient country wouldn't provoke them without good cause. Because the existence at the pinnacle of primal chaos, their spiritual will was at least at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm, and might even be at the godly king's will. Once they used the reincarnation secret art, they could be reborn with their complete memories intact. Who would dare to cause trouble relying on their background against such beings? If pushed too far, they would simply kill you. After killing, they could just reincarnate. No matter how big your background, you can't find the reincarnated identity of the other party. Moreover, there was an unspoken agreement in the land of origin. When those in the primal chaos realm clash, the god kings wouldn't intervene easily without sufficient reason. Therefore, outside of the two ancient countries, the pinnacle of primal chaos was already the most powerful deterrent under normal circumstances. We can't help him, the Deputy Pavilion Master shook his head. This Luo, he is too reckless. When his strength was weak, why did he insist on acting on impulse? Perhaps he thought he could protect himself. Emperor Chu Yu frowned. But the power of an existence at the pinnacle of primal chaos is terrifying indeed, far stronger than those newly advanced to the primal chaos realm. This is bad. At the city owner's mansion, General Yuewu's facial expression slightly changed. Even for just a little face, Marquis Liu Yin will have to take action, said General Yong Hu at his side. I'm worried that Marquis Liu Yin will take out his wrath on the entire Huyang city, General Yuewu said. Yong Hu looked at Yuewu in surprise. General Yuewu continued, Marquis Liu Yin is called the catastrophe of the world. Normally, when he takes action, it represents the coming of a catastrophe. And given the great humiliation this time, his actions will only be more ruthless. Don't worry, my master has bestowed upon me a life-saving treasure, and I will take you away when the time comes, General Yuewu sighed. But I cannot protect the whole Huyang city. Upon hearing this, Yong Hu immediately nodded. He was also touched. They were all disciples of the monarch of Yu country. But among the disciples of the monarch of Yu country, Yuewu was treated 10 times better than them, even having a life-saving treasure. Did Master kill Liu Yinyang? So Marquis Liu Yin is going to make a move? Mo Yu Qingyang was very worried about her master and couldn't help but look towards Morosa. Don't panic, Morosa comforted, looking up. Over this period, Luo Feng had sparred with him many times. He was the one who knew his master's strength best. The dark red armored figure in the sky looked at Luo Feng with a cold gaze. Good, I hope when the time comes for you to die, you're still as confident. Having said that, this incarnation dissipated into the air, vanishing between heaven and earth. Luo Feng turned his head to look towards the distant Heartshadow sect base. Boom! A terrifying and oppressive aura had exploded from the Heartshadow sect base. The true body of Marquis Liu Yin had already arrived here with the help of the space-time treasure bestowed upon the Heartshadow sect. "His here," Luo Feng muttered as he watched. "His here, Emperor Chu Yu, the Deputy Pavilion Master, Marquis of Zhujiang, and the others all took notice of the terrifying aura erupting from the Heartshadow sect base, an aura that made their hearts tremble. Marquis Liu Yin stood at the Heartshadow sect base, looking up at Luo Feng from a distance. Luo Feng also looked at him. "Courageous," Marquis Liu Yin said softly. Suddenly he vanished into thin air. And in an instant, the entire sky darkened, followed by the spread of endless bloodfire that seemed like blood vessels extending across the sky. "What's this? What's happening to the sky?" Countless cultivators in Huyang City were looking at the sky in horror, as the bloodfire spread like veins across the entire sky, turning it completely dark red. Under the shadow of the dark red sky, a sense of calamity spread, even making the cultivators feel as if death was approaching. At the Heartshadow sect, Master of the Heartshadow sect and the 18 elders looked up at this sight. "When the Marquis bestowed the space-time treasure to me, it was for me to arrive instantly, to deal with Marquis of Zhujiang," the Master of the Heartshadow sect said as he watched. Who would have thought that this Luo he would seek death by offending the Marquis? Could this Luo he be relying on something, that he dares to be so arrogant? An elder spoke up. "Among the primal chaos overlords, those who can be called pinnacle of primal chaos are few and far between. This Marquis Liu Yin is an existence on par with great Saint Zhou. How could there possibly be a newly advanced primal chaos realm being capable of withstanding him?" Elder Heartai shook his head. The Heartshadow sect had fallen due to great Saint Zhou. Elder Heartai and the others had also carefully understood the differences between those in the primal chaos realm and knew the terror of ones like great Saint Zhou and Marquis Liu Yin. Marquis Liu Yin only asked him to hand over the envoy of the Snow Realm and to compensate 10 billion cosmic sand, he said. "Those in the primal chaos realm have strong life-saving capabilities. Now let's see how good Luo his life-saving secret technique is," they said. The Heartshadow sect watched on. They could only hide far away from such a high-level confrontation. Previously, too, they had watched from a distance as great Saint Zhou fought against the Heartshadow sect's 3 primal chaos realm beings. Using the sect's formation, in the end, the formation was broken, 1 died and 2 fled. Luo Feng looked at the dark red sky, which extended for billions of miles, with the aura of calamity spreading far and wide. Suddenly, a giant face appeared in the dark red sky that was the face of Marquis Liu Yin. "This is my world, can your life-saving secret technique escape from my world?" The giant face looked at Luo Feng. "As for reincarnation, you, a newly advanced primal chaos being, can you awaken your memories after reincarnation? Only those with godlikings can remain fully aware, clear-headed even as a fetus. The primal chaos pinnacle beings, once reincarnated, have an uncertain time for awakening memories. It could happen in youth, or even when one is a true god of void space or an eternal true god. If one dies again without awakening memories, then that death is truly final." "Marquis Liu Yin, did you ask my permission before you made your move?" a voice rang out. Marquis of Zhujiang appeared out of nowhere above Huyang City, standing beside Luo Feng. He looked up at the dark red sky. "Buzz tilde tilde tilde." The void vibrated suddenly, its ripples covering the dark red sky, making the entire sky blurry. "Luo he, take the chance to get away while I hold off Marquis Liu Yin." Marquis of Zhujiang glanced at Luo Feng and immediately sent a telepathic message, "Take your friend and leave quickly. I won't be able to hold off Marquis Liu Yin for long. With Marquis Liu Yin in a rage, I fear he might take it out on the entire Huyang City. Of course, if I end up winning, that would be the best." The Marquis of Zhujiang chuckled, then completely vanished as he merged into the void. Knowing full well that his chances of victory were slim, the Marquis of Zhujiang still wanted to fight and settle the battle once and for all. Who's stronger? Who's weaker? Only a fight would tell. Boom tilde tilde tilde. In the vast and mighty Bloodfire world, its power was terrifying, but there was also an invisible layer of void ripples covering the Bloodfire world, suppressing it. Marquis of Zhujiang, you think you can stop me? Suddenly, millions of Marquis Liu Yin's Bloodfire figures appeared, each one swinging out a blade of Bloodfire light which instantly tore through the void ripples. Extinguish! With a cold shout, suddenly a net of void appeared in the world, its dense web of void instantly slicing through the millions of Marquis Liu Yin figures, shredding them all into pieces. Luo Feng watched all this unfold. In terms of realm, they are both above me. Luo Feng realized the gap between them as he observed their fight. In terms of realm, the moves of both Marquis Liu Yin and Marquis of Zhujiang were incredibly mysterious, far more powerful than his own straightforward techniques, to the point where he couldn't even pinpoint their true bodies. As strength increases, it's not just the power that grows immensely but the techniques also become more inconceivable, Luo Feng observed carefully. Although he had gathered a lot of information about the primal chaos realm, it was still not as good as witnessing it with his own eyes. Since he became a creature of the primal chaos realm, the only one he had fought with was Morosa. Luo He, why aren't you leaving? Emperor Chu Yu, the master of the Flame Wind Pavilion, urgently sent a telepathic message. Now that the Marquis of Zhujiang is holding the other off, you must leave immediately. Let me gauge the situation first, Luo Feng responded, watching intently. Are you? I really don't understand why you're so confident. Here is the most detailed information on Marquis Liu Yin. Emperor Chu Yu, unable to persuade him, immediately sent a detailed dossier. Marquis Liu Yin is known as the disaster of the world. At this moment, his true body is not any physical form, but that Bloodfire world itself. The world is him, and he is the world. Luo Feng reviewed the information on Marquis Liu Yin. The information provided by Emperor Chu Yu was extremely detailed, even including many recorded battle scenes. Luo Feng was too poor to afford detailed information on such top-tier beings of the primal chaos. Thank you, Pavilion Master, Luo Feng sent his thanks through telepathy. Luo He, are you not leaving? I can't hold him off any longer, the Marquis of Zhujiang sent an urgent telepathic message. Thud 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 tilde tilde tilde. The whole Bloodfire world seemed to boil, with annihilation everywhere, and the Marquis of Zhujiang, hidden within the void, found it increasingly difficult to withstand as he burned his divine power. Marquis of Zhujiang, if you can't hold out, then let me take over, Luo Feng said with a slight smile. Take over? The concealed Marquis of Zhujiang was shocked. All eyes were on Luo Feng as he looked up at the endless Bloodfire world. Boom rumble tilde tilde tilde. A rolling torrent of silver river suddenly swept across a vast expanse. Its extent was so grand that it was in no way inferior to the Bloodfire world itself. All cultivators in Huyang City had noticed that a silver river flowed over every road and every residential area, providing perfect protection for Huyang City, preventing any cultivator from being harmed by the Bloodfire world. I have cultivated 15 kinds of transformation methods, but when it comes to large-scale maneuvers, the galaxy transformation method is still what I'm best at, thought Luo Feng. During this era, he had also visited the Primal Chaos Layer and captured some Primal Chaos Layer creatures. Thus he upgraded his transformation methods to 15 kinds. However, Luo Feng only used 5 kinds of transformation methods on himself. Rise. At the thought of Luo Feng, myriad vast silver blade lights began to levitate, a total of 8,000 blade lights suspended at the same time. Chem. The Marquis Liu Yin, transformed into the endless Bloodfire world, watched this scene with confusion because these 8,000 blade lights looked mighty, but there was no burning of divine power. Luo Feng looked up at the sky. The 8,000 galaxy blade lights were simultaneously executing the blade technique Blade River Slash. It was a move that Luo Feng had created as his realm gradually improved. The Blade River Slash pursued simplicity and purity, with Luo Feng removing some intricate variations, even eliminating the targeting of space itself, to seek only the most fundamental power. As a result, Blade River Slash was much less taxing on the heart force. Moreover, after the perfect divine body reached its limits of growth, nurtured by the physical body, his soul grew larger, enabling him to divide his attention among even more blade lights. With these improvements, Luo Feng was able to cast 8,000 blade lights with but a single thought. Rumble rumble tilde 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 tilde. Even without targeting space, maintaining only the purest power. As the 8,000 blade lights erupted at once, layer after layer of space instantly shattered into pieces, utterly defenseless. Wherever the blade lights enveloped, everything was annihilated, everything returned to primal chaos. With the blade lights rampaging, all the layers of space were crushed, even touching the outermost membrane of the entire world. This layer of membrane was the braided cage membrane. Under the rampaging of the 8,000 blade lights, this braided cage membrane remained incredibly tenacious and unshakable. Purely relying on power to break through the braided cage? Such force was still far from sufficient. Whether it was Marquis of Zhujiang, Emperor Chu Yu, or Marquis Liu Yin who faced the devastating 8,000 blade lights, they were all astonished. The 8,000 blade lights ravaged an area of hundreds of billions of kilometers, shattering all layers of space down to the final braided cage membrane. Even the Bloodfire world was partly destroyed in an instant. Within this area, unless one could merge with the braided cage membrane, there was no escape. One could only withstand this strike head-on. I'm actually injured. Since Marquis Liu Yin had been able to turn into the Bloodfire world, it had been a long time since he was injured. You are not a newly advanced primal chaos cultivator. As the 8,000 blade lights converged and the Bloodfire world spread again, a giant face looked at Luo Feng. You possess the strength of the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Dressed in a black robe, stepping on the endless silver river, Luo Feng looked up at the Bloodfire world. Who told you that I am a newly advanced primal chaos cultivator? Marquis Liu Yin, I secluded myself in Huyang City, and you were the one who provoked me. This video will end here.